Okay, so think about this for a second. How do you usually pay for stuff? Probably just a quick tap of your card, right? Or maybe your phone. It's super fast, seamless, almost invisible. But what if this big global move towards, a cashless society isn't just about making things easy? What if there's something, well, deeper going on, something maybe a bit uncomfortable about control, surveillance, maybe even our basic freedom? Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into this accelerating push for a cashless world. We've got some insights from a really in depth debate on this. It's designed to make you think, to challenge assumptions. Our mission really is to unpack whether this digital future is, genuine progress or maybe a subtle, almost hidden erosion of your personal freedom. We've got some surprising facts lined up, and we want to ask the questions maybe you haven't considered. So let's dive in. Right. When we talk digital payments, often the first thing that jumps out is fraud. You hear these horror stories, don't you? SIM swap scams, data breaches, weird contactless charges. It's enough to make anyone nervous about ditching cash completely. But here's a thought. What if these concerns, which are totally real and serious, are actually kind of distracting us, like distracting us from even bigger, more fundamental issues?
That's a really interesting way to put it. And look, fraud is absolutely a huge problem. It's real, it's growing. The numbers, well, they speak for themselves. In the UK, SIM swap fraud, that's where criminals basically hijack your phone number,
Right.
it went up by, get this, 1,055% in 2024.
Wow, 1,000%.
Yeah, from just under 300 cases in 2023 to nearly 3,000 reports. They use it to bypass security, empty bank accounts.
Terrifying.
It is. And contactless payment fraud. That hit about 41.5 million in 2023, up from around 35 million the year before. These aren't small things. They're like warning signs showing how fragile these digital systems can be, how exploitable. But, and this is your point, while we absolutely have to pay attention to fraud, it's a massive red flag. It could very well be overshadowing these other, perhaps even larger issues, things like digital exclusion, who gets left behind, and broader questions about control and surveillance.
Okay, so it's not just the immediate fear of being scammed, which is bad enough. It's this wider vulnerability baked into the system itself. That feels, yeah, more unsettling. When you mention digital exclusion, what does that look like on the ground for actual people?
Oh, it's very real. It's not theoretical at all. It's got a profound human cost. This rapid shift, it just leaves whole groups of people struggling to keep up. Think about older generations, or maybe just people who've always relied on cash. They often feel really uncomfortable with the tech. It's not just fear of fraud, though that's part of it. It's also this feeling of losing control over their own money. It changes a fundamental relationship.
That makes sense, like losing that physical connection to your finances.
Exactly. And here's something interesting, kind of counterintuitive. During the 2023 cost of living crunch in the UK, cash usage actually went up slightly, from 18.8% to 19.9% of transactions,
Really? Why was that?
because physical money helps people budget. When things are tight, holding cash gives you a very real sense of control over spending. You see it going out. It also highlights how vulnerable we are if digital systems fail. Remember that global payments outage?
Vaguely, yeah.
Cash withdrawals suddenly jump by £6 million. People immediately scramble for cash as a backup. It shows we still need it.
So relying completely on digital, it's risky.
It can be.
Yeah.
And think about those who aren't digitally fluent. People with certain disabilities, maybe low-income folks, anyone without reliable internet. They get, well, the phrase used was shoved into bureaucratic limbo. Systems demand digital interaction for everything, benefits, services.
Right. And it feels like there's this subtle psychological thing happening too, doesn't it? Like all these passcodes and security steps, they're presented as being for our protection, but maybe they're also training us, normalizing this idea that our money isn't entirely ours to control freely, eroding that sense of autonomy step by step. It's quite a clever nudge, really. And if we follow that thread further, it leads to maybe a more provocative idea. What if this whole cashless push isn't just about convenience or even this subtle control? What if it's about setting up a really centralized system, one that could give them, whoever they are, a kind of kill switch? We already see how digital systems increase oversight for people on benefits. Imagine scaling that up.
Well, it's definitely not just paranoia. It's something governments and central banks are actively looking at. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Basically, a digital version of the pound or the dollar issued directly by the central bank.
Right, I've heard about those. The digital pound.
Exactly. The Bank of England has been open about exploring it,
Right.
and they explicitly say it would give them greater control over the monetary system. Now, think about the implications. Every single CBDC transaction, traceable.
Every single one.
Every single one. Unlike cash, there's no off-grid spending. Now, from one angle, that's great for catching tax evaders or criminals. But from another angle, it's the perfect setup for state surveillance. Total visibility into everyone's spending.
Wow. Okay.
And it's not just theoretical. Look at China. Their digital yuan is already being linked to their social credit system. So misbehavior, and that could be anything from jaywalking to, saying the wrong thing online, could literally stop you buying a train ticket or getting a loan.
It's chilling. Seriously chilling.
It is. And even here, the UK's House of Lords raised red flags, warning a digital pound could give the state unprecedented power over how people spend their money. So it forces a really critical question on you, doesn't it? Is this level of control a necessary poison we have to swallow to fight fraud and tax evasion? Or is the risk of total surveillance, the potential for state overreach, just way too high for a free society?
A poison.
Yeah.
That's a strong way to put it. But yeah, it feels like a massive trade-off. And it makes you think, if we, as ordinary people, are being asked to potentially give up privacy and freedom to stop fraud, then why does it feel like the real fraudsters, the big players, politicians, huge corporations, maybe millionaires, often get a pass? They're the ones making the rules half the time. I mean, we all remember the MP expenses scandal here in the UK.
Oh, yeah. Duck houses and moat cleaning.
Exactly. Paid by taxpayers as work expenses. And then you see the government losing, what, £16 billion in dodgy COVID loans? Billions written off, while ordinary people get chased for tiny benefit overpayments.
The contrast is stark.
It really is. And the Tax Justice Network says the UK loses something like £37 billion a year from tax avoidance and evasion, mostly by big companies and the super rich. Meanwhile, someone on minimum wage could face jail for much, much less. It just makes you wonder, does this cashless stops crime argument only really apply to the little guy? Like, the small fish get caught, but the whales just swim right past the net. Maybe they even own the net.
You're hitting on a really deep hypocrisy there. And history kind of backs you up, doesn't it? Governments already have these huge classified spending budgets, billions spent with zero public oversight. A digital currency wouldn't magically make that transparent. They'd just label it sensitive or whatever.
Right. Same secrecy. New system.
Pretty much. And think about the revolving door. Politicians regulate an industry, then leave office and get a cushy job in that same industry.
Happens all the time.
So, do we really expect those people to design a system that holds them to the same level of scrutiny as everyone else? When you look at it that way, it seems like cashless systems could mean total surveillance for you, the average person, but continued immunity, or even less scrutiny, for those at the top.
Which brings us back to cash itself.
Exactly. If the system feels tilted, maybe cash is. Well, maybe it's the last real tool for autonomy. It's the one thing they can't fully track, can't just switch off remotely. So is the fight to keep cash alive really about power? About holding on to that little bit of untracked freedom rather than just being old-fashioned? What do you think?
That's a really powerful frame. And maybe that's why we are seeing that little uptick you mentioned. Maybe people are sensing this consciously or unconsciously. And choosing cash is a small act of, well, resistance. Perhaps it's the only thing that can really slow this whole thing down.
I think it absolutely is. Every time someone chooses cash, it sends a signal. It disrupts the narrative that cashless is inevitable. And that 2023 data point, cash use going up slightly for the first time in ages, that wasn't just random. It was driven by real needs during the cost of living crisis. Budgeting, control, and like we said, those system outages, like Visa in 2018, instant spike in cash withdrawals. It reminds people of its fundamental value as a backup. Security.
A safety net.
Precisely. So yeah, using cash can be seen as a kind of quiet protest. Each note you spend basically says, we still value this choice, this freedom. You don't get to control everything just yet.
Which leads to the question for you listening. Do you ever think about that? That maybe every tap on the card is training them into compliance, as one source put it? Or are most of us just, sleepwalking into it because, let's face it, it's just so darn convenient?
Oh, convenience is huge. I mean, I get it. I use tap and go all the time myself. It's just easy. But hearing all this, it does make you stop and think, I'm definitely trying to be more conscious now, maybe use cash for smaller things. And that's why we need to talk about it, right? To sort of nudge ourselves awake, stop the sleepwalking. And that's crucial because the way this could happen, the long game, it's insidious. The system doesn't need an outright ban on cash. That would cause uproar.
True.
Instead, they can just let it die from neglect. Fewer ATMs, more branches closing, shops quietly deciding not to take it. So technically, it's still a choice to use cash, but in reality, it becomes so difficult, so inconvenient
Yeah.
that people just give up.
But wait, didn't you say earlier, or wasn't it in the source material, that public pressure actually forced the UK government to act on cash access?
Yes, that's right. There was a significant backlash.
Which led to that legislation in 2023 guaranteeing cash access within a certain distance for most people.
Correct. Ensuring 95% of people are within 1 mile of a free cash point.
So that proves people will push back if it gets too hard, doesn't it? Maybe it's about keeping that awareness alive,
Yeah.
keeping the memory of cash and what it represents alive through these kinds of conversations. Keeping the memory alive. I like that. It reframes the whole thing. It makes you think, should we treat cash not just as old money, but as a kind of fundamental civil right? Something to be actively defended, like free speech or the right to vote? Because it represents that zone of unmonitored private life.
A civil right.
Yeah.
Wow. That puts a different spin on it entirely. And that's especially important for younger generations, isn't it? Kids growing up now, totally digital natives,
Yeah.
they might not automatically see the value in this kind of untracked freedom. Why would
Right.
they?
Exactly. It's not part of their lived experience in the same way.
So it kind of falls on older generations, parents, grandparents, to consciously pass that value on. Like actually giving kids pocket money and coins, letting them buy things with physical cash, showing them how to save in a piggy bank, not just seeing numbers on an app.
It sounds simple, maybe even quaint.
Yeah, but maybe it's teaching something deeper. Autonomy, tangible control.
It could be. Teaching the concept of unmonitored exchange. But the catch is, most parents are probably pretty deep into digital payments themselves, right? We're all busy. Convenience wins. We might be unconsciously guiding our kids into the very system we're now questioning.
Which circles right back to your point about conversations being vital.
Yeah.
Because the system is designed to be almost invisible, humming along in the background. Most people won't just wake up to these implications on their own. Someone who's pointed out asks the awkward questions. That's where conversations like this deep dive come in, planting seeds.
And I really think those grassroots chats are key. You know, talking to your neighbor, your friends, family, it feels more effective, maybe less alarming than shouting online, which can just get you labeled a conspiracy theorist, frankly.
Right, the messenger matters as much as the message sometimes.
Yeah, maybe shows like this can be the spark. Get the ideas out there in a balanced way.
I think that's exactly it. It's a sort of double-pronged approach, isn't it?
Yeah.
Online platforms like this can spread awareness widely, reach lots of people. But it's those offline, face-to-face conversations where resistance, or at least conscious choice, really takes root, where people convince each other. And there's a certain irony, isn't there? In our hyper-digital world, maybe the most rebellious things you can do are actually the simplest. Pay with cash sometimes, talk to people directly, share knowledge by word of mouth. These are things that surveillance systems can't easily track or censor.
That's a great point. So our role here with the deep dive is really to be that spark, to open the door to these, let's be honest, uncomfortable ideas, remind people what's at stake, and then hopefully you take those thoughts and questions offline into your own conversations.
Exactly. So I guess to kind of wrap things up, the battle for financial freedom, for that little bit of autonomy, it probably won't be won in the cloud or through some grand gesture. It'll likely be won or lost in everyday places, in living rooms, corner shops, through using coins and notes, and just as importantly, through talking about it.
That's a really powerful thought to end on, and it leaves you, our listener, with this final question to chew on. That next time you tap your card or phone, is it just convenience? Or is it maybe, unconsciously, a tiny step towards compliance? And maybe, just maybe, what small act of cash resistance could you make this week? Even just using it once or twice. Something to keep the conversation and the memory of that unmonitored freedom alive. Definitely something to reflect on. We hope you continue this discussion in your own life.